Hey there, Steve. Yeah, what you can see back there is actually a roof of a shelter, some sort of overhang for a carport. That was actually across the street a matter of an hour and a half ago. This was kind of the epicenter here in the Sugar Hill RV park, but the surrounding communities were also impacted. And we are still waiting for the president-elect to arrive. They have the hangar doors open here at the airport, and we haven't seen his plane touch down. We are at Evangeline Airline, right in smack dab in the middle of the intersection. If you look behind me a ways, this is Airline Highway. Space is a problem, however, here at the old shipping hub, the Port of Havana. You can see the entrance behind me. As the city grew up around it, there was simply no space to expand. We're just getting onto the bridge right now. It's just a little after the noon rush, and already we're starting to see a little bit of a backup, and the time right now is 1 o'clock. So let's see how long it takes us to get across. He is going to visit one of the neighborhoods affected here in East Baton Rouge. That is what we are being told. He's supposed to then make a statement when he arrives in that neighborhood, and then the rest of his trip is still somewhat shrouded in mystery. Hey there, Donna and Andre. I am live right now amongst a scary pack of tigers. We are live along the parade route right now. We're, of course, a little less than an hour away from kickoff time, and I'm here with Peggy. You are in charge of this float, so why the tiger theme? Red Cross volunteers from across the country are heading to South Carolina in that terrible flooding, including 15 from right here in our own Baton Rouge. Whether they get the job done or not, every time lawmakers come here to the Capitol, it costs you, the taxpayer, more money. For example, lawmakers are each paid $157 a day, which doesn't sound like a lot. But when you consider there are more than 140 legislators and the session lasted 25 days, that begins to add up, with the state paying out $571,000. Over the years, Aubrey Edwards has grown used to carrying his grandson, but never like this.
And then when they told me the water was too deep to come, I got a pretty high truck. I said, I'm gonna give it a try.
His daughter and grandson trapped. Water flooding the first floor of their apartment. He drove through the flooded streets, carting them both to safety.
Being a parent, your job is never over, you know, and I'm just glad to be there for them.
This is a scene that is played out across the Hammond area today, starting early this morning, when sheriff boats helped rescue more than 300 stranded residents across the parish.
Were you able to save some of your stuff?
No, just got some dry clothes. Just got some dry clothes. And we got our lives, so thank God for that.
We know our stuff can be replaced, but we can't, so we're just happy to get out of there.
Across town on West David Drive, Good Samaritans helping others escape the rising tide.
It's bad.
With his truck and boat, Lawrence Wesby and his team rescued more than 15 people.
Well, this is my cousin. He's a little friend, and him and the family got stranded, so I went and got my boat. We're going to get them out of here.
Neighbors helping neighbors as they wait for the water to finally subside. And again, that number has now inched up to 500 people that had to be rescued in Tangipahoa Parish throughout the course of the day. A few reminders tonight. There's a curfew in place from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. as emergency crews continue to work, so you're asked to stay off the road, stay home. Another thing, if you're living along the Tangipahoa River, it is still on the rise, expected to crest tomorrow at 10 a.m. So if you were in a place that was impacted by Hurricane Isaac, please do evacuate, is what the parish president is saying now. It's expected to be just as bad or even worse this time around.
It's like a nightmare that won't ever end. I feel like I'm in that movie Groundhog Day.
Once again, the state's budget woes are forcing lawmakers to impose cuts. Last month, the governor called for an $18 million hit to state universities as part of an effort to balance the budget.
Higher ed was the sticking point. Nobody wants to cut them further.
Today, the governor and lawmakers worked out a way to lessen the blow using one-time money. That means instead, higher ed will take a $12 million hit. $700,000 of that comes from Southern. More than $5 million comes from LSU. Their 16th cut in 9 years.
And this is I think an appropriate and a good compromise that reflects in the spirit of the season what can happen when we all come together.
The Department of Health is taking a large hit as well, amounting to about $250 million. Agency leaders describe these cuts as manageable for now. However,
I have to be honest with you, it's not getting higher ed out of the woods a month from now. And nobody's out of the woods a month from now when we face the inevitable shortfall that we're going to see in this budget year.
That shortfall could be in the $300 million range. Agency heads say if more cuts need to indeed happen, things like funding for colleges and health care waivers that help disabled children could once again be in jeopardy.
The legislature's reacting to what the public wants to do. So if the public's not willing to give the money, then we can't We only have what we have.
Today's plan includes delaying a payment to companies that provide health care to Medicaid patients. That means Louisiana will already have to deal with a $150 million bill next fiscal year.
We are a little over 4 feet with the water level.
Byron Como is still struggling to make sense of it all. The floodwaters left a destructive path of the Magnolia Veterans Home, broken tiles, waterlogged walls, mold. Mattresses left sopping wet.
Our computers, Wi-Fi, everything is gone now.
Como, an Army veteran himself, along with his wife, have owned the center on Florida Boulevard for the last 15 years. Never once has it flooded. The facility serves as home to a small handful of veterans, all of them in need of constant and intensive care. Each suffers from bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or PTSD.
It's very, very hard for changes to happen to them. So when you have a change, they don't understand the change.
But last week, one of those changes came in the blink of an eye as the waters rose around them. Donald Crochet is one of the residents.
It was coming fast. I told him, come on, we'd have waited 20 more minutes, we wouldn't have better left.
Cleanup is now underway. It's a process that could take weeks or even months. But Como and his wife are determined to bring their soldiers back home.
It's a hurting situation. We can come back from this. I know we can.
In the meantime, the vets are staying here in North Baton Rouge, many counting the days until they can go home. But today, amid the despair, smiles. Members of a local VFW bringing donations to help these vets and their caretakers in their time of need.
My heart is just so full. I don't know what to say, but thank y'all so much. There is people that care. People do care, you know, and, you know, this is the evidence of what people do for you.
Kevin Frey, WAFB 9 News.
It's such discrimination to the point where, like, you feel so powerless.
Alexander Glover identifies as female. Born a boy named Dylan, however, her birth certificate still says male. That proved problematic on a recent trip to the Office of Motor Vehicles. There to get a new ID card, Glover was turned away.
If you have makeup on or anything like that, you're supposed to take all that off because you are actually a man.
Glover was wearing makeup and a dress when visiting the OMV, a red flag for the clerk. Since 1986, state motor vehicle policy has stated that at no time will an applicant be photographed when it is obvious he or she is misrepresenting his or her gender.
I'm not misrepresenting my gender. I mean, just because it says male on my ID shouldn't matter.
Louisiana Commissioner of Motor Vehicles Stephen Campbell says representing one's gender is a safety issue when on the roads.
This is all based on the law enforcement need to identify someone if they're stopped as a result of a traffic infraction, if they're involved in a serious crash.
However, Glover says how she looked at the OMV is how she looks every day, so removing her makeup would have in fact made her look different.
You should look like what you look like when you take your ID picture.
The individual clearly was appearing to be female and was making himself up to be female in spite of the fact that his driver's license was to a male.
That's like saying, you know, there's certain things that you have to look like in order to be this gender, and that's not true. Not everybody in this world has a beard. Not everybody here has a mustache.
So how do clerks at the OMV identify how a man should look?
We don't have specific guidelines for that. You know, it just other than obvious kinds of things like a male wearing a dress.
In fact, on previous trips to the DMV, Glover was photographed and received an ID card.
My hair was a lot shorter and I didn't wear as much makeup as I do now. And I'm guessing they thought that was more socially acceptable.
It is subjective. It clearly is subjective.
Hello again from Havana. The deals signed today are by no means official trade agreements. The embargo prevents that. But Louisiana leaders say they are a step in the right direction.
We are eager to explore ways that we can, both in the short term and in the long term, really develop our partnership.
Louisiana and Cuban leaders put pen to paper this morning, signing agreements affirming relations between the state and the island nation. Largely symbolic, the memorandums of understanding, as they're called, are designed to increase communication and allow for the sharing of ideas going forward.
We appreciate this visit as a positive sign of the will of many Americans to participate directly.
State leaders, including Commissioner of Agriculture Mike Strain, hope the deals will also give Louisiana a leg up if and when the embargo is lifted and trade with the island nation is expanded.
We are perfectly poised to be the predominant player in these markets.
Next year, Cuba is expected to import about $2 billion worth of agricultural products like rice and soybeans, items that are Louisiana's specialty.
In the United States, with American goods, within 5 years, if we can normalize trade relationships, we could have $1 billion of that. We fully expect Louisiana to have a lion's share of that.
In the short term, the embargo alone is not the only barrier.
Current laws in the United States require them to pay in full at the time of delivery. That's not the way trade works. That's not the way international commerce works in the rest of the world.
Even with the embargo in place, Louisiana has been allowed limited trade with Cuba for items deemed necessary for humanitarian reasons. But that trade has waned in recent years as Cuba's economy struggled, cutting back on their ability to pay. Looking around Havana, it's hard to miss the extreme poverty, in some cases just a block from major tourist hubs like this park. Strain says because of all this, the embargo should be lifted sooner rather than later.
We have to renormalize these negotiations so that we can trade just like with any other country.
But any chance of that could still be a long way off. Coming up tomorrow, the Louisiana group on the ground here in Havana will be visiting a port that is currently being expanded in order to entice more trade to the island. We'll have updates for you along the way. For now, though, reporting in Havana for the Raycom News Network, I'm Kevin Frey. We begin with a strange chain of events leading up to a deadly scene at the Baton Rouge General Hospital Bluebonnet campus. The story is one we broke first on WAFB.com, and our Scotty Hunter has been gathering details all day long. He joins us live from Baton Rouge General with the very latest. Scotty, what can you tell us? Right, Scotty, a very bizarre case indeed. Thank you. Baton Rouge General released a statement following this morning's shooting. It reads, "The safety of our patients, their families, and visitors is our highest priority. We are proud of our extraordinary team for their swift action in a dangerous situation." 9 News will continue to stay on top of this developing story. You can also find the very latest by going to our website, WAFB.com. Overnight, detectives were on the scene of another deadly shooting in Baton Rouge. This is what it looked like last night around 10 o'clock on Laurel Street near North 26th Street. That's where Baton Rouge police say 21-year-old Anthony Campbell was found dead from apparent gunshot wounds. Detectives have not said what led up to the deadly scene or whether they have any suspects in mind. If you know anything that may be able to help those investigators, call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP. Developing news now, the Iberville Parish Sheriff's Office is investigating after the body of a young woman was found in Whiskey Bay. Sheriff Brett Stassi says a fisherman discovered the body earlier today under I-10 between mile marker 130 and 131. They are treating it as a homicide. The woman is described as white, likely between age 25 and 35. An autopsy is scheduled for Monday. A key source of money for Louisiana's coastal restoration efforts may be at risk, and now some coastal activists are sounding the alarm. John Snell has our story. With Election Day just 2 months away, presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump spent Labor Day courting voters in the critical state of Ohio. Mark Albert has the latest from the campaign trail.